Well, Mohammed Shafiq is from the Ramadhan Foundation and joins us now live from Blackburn. This kind of stuff shouldn't be happening in our schools, should it?
Well, I think let's look at the central allegation. The allegation was made that there was an extremism plot to take over schools, that there was a pattern of extremism that was being promoted on these schools. None of these reports have proven that allegation, and actually we now have a contradiction between Ian Kershaw, who was from the Birmingham City Council authorised report, saying that there is no evidence of extremism, and now we have Peter Clark saying the opposite. People are confused about what is happening. What we know is that the allegation of extremism being promoted in schools is not true, that this was a political witch hunt carried out by Michael Gove and his neoconservative friends in the media, and then people like Peter Clark, people like Ofsted were given the opportunity to go and find that evidence, to find something that was going to stick.
Well, let's not muddy the waters. Let's hear exactly what Peter Clark said.
Well, I'm not muddying the waters. I'm telling you what the reality is.
Okay, well, let's tell you what the reality is. Let me just point out the reality to you, what Peter Clark reported. He concluded that there was a deliberate effort by a number of individuals to introduce an intolerant and aggressive Islamic ethos into a number of Birmingham schools. That should not be happening in this country, should it?
I think we've got to look at the issue of school governors, and we've got to understand, people from all communities have to understand what their role is. The role of a governor is not to tell a school what to do, to interfere in the curriculum, but it's to set the strategic direction of the school governing body and hold the management of that school accountable. But I go back to the central issue, that if these inquiries were about getting to the bottom of this, actually we're no clearer today than we were 6 months ago. As I've said, this was a deliberate campaign by Michael Gove, the former Education Secretary, pursue this issue in which Muslims feel they've been demonised, and we are hiding away from the real facts of this case, the real threat from terrorism that our country faces. The threat from terrorism in this country is what we should be focusing on, not this small issue where we may have examples of one or two parents being pushy, but I don't think that is part of an extremist plot to take over schools.
You say this is one or two parents being pushy. What about this WhatsApp exchange, which includes a number of teachers, one of whom talking about sisters in the school, to which another replies they're in the kitchen, and goes on to say perpetual role serving men, smiley face. What kind of message is that sending to young girls in that school in the UK in 2012?
I think what we've got to do is we've got to condemn any sort of people who say that sort of thing. We've got to promote tolerance. We've got to promote equality and human rights, and the majority of people in Birmingham are promoting those values. But let's be very clear, we live in a climate of fear. We live in a climate where we're actually telling Muslim parents to be involved in citizenship and in running of schools and participating in the governing body. And then on the other hand, we see schools being demonised in this way. And this, at the very same time, we see the real reasons why we see extremism and terrorism in our country, the rise of terrorism in this country, is because of what we've seen on our screens coming from Gaza, what we see in terms of foreign policy. So let's focus on the real debate on this issue, and let's condemn anybody who promotes division, anybody who disrespects women or children. Actually, I stand against that. But the idea that this was an extremist plot to take over schools has been proven wrong.
This wasn't a faith school, of course. None of these were faith schools. If your child was attending a school and a lot of Catholic or perhaps Jewish parents and governors started becoming very strongly involved in the school and really started pushing perhaps a Jewish ethos or a Catholic ethos on your children, how would you feel?
Again, you know, what is the purpose of schools? Schools is to educate our future generations on the issue of tolerance and respect and equality, and the vast majority of schools are doing that. As I've said, in Birmingham there may be one or two examples of overpowering parents, but you know, in these schools we've had Sikh head teachers, we've had Christian heads of the governing bodies. I don't see that as an Islamist takeover of schools. I see that as parents who are being pushy. Let's be very clear about that. Let's deal with the real issues. Let's not demonise Muslims. Let's ensure that Muslims are involved in this. And actually, let me just say one final thing,
I'm afraid we are out of time. We are going to a break. It's the top of the hour. Thank you.